Hi there, I'm Mac and Grimes.
And I'm El Ninja Cupcake.
And I'm Haley.
And I'm Jay. And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of your bad decisions and to retrieve the treasure of wisdom. Today, we will be presenting you a bevy of interesting questions, but of course, first, the most important thing that we have to discuss is what was really cool in the last week. And for that, we turn to the segment I have affectionately referred to as Dungeon Crawl. We're going to start with you, Cupcake, because you're prepared for this question, and I'm going to present you to the audience so that they may feast upon your carcass.
Oh, goodness. I will be completely honest with you. This past week was the penultimate episode of Season 1 for my Digger C team, and I've just been plotting what corner I'm going to hole up in and curl up and cry for the next couple months.
I was really impressed with the episode. I was surprised by how much ground they managed to cover. I kind of imagined the Wandering Crypt being a little elaborate, like a old school dungeon crawl, and I was quite surprised to see that it was mostly just this long descent into this darkness, but it definitely had the atmosphere and the mood right, and I really enjoyed that. And frankly, it just really got me excited for this week's episode. I cannot wait to see what Jerry does to pull this beast together into some sort of conclusion.
I'm a sucker for stories that come and turn on themselves and kind of wrap themselves up into a little ball. Ugh.
Yeah, and of course, this is practically a C-Team fan cast at this point.
I'm already halfway through listening to it a second time because there's so much detail in there, and they really squeezed a lot into this episode, and I feel like I'm going to be very sad, and I will mourn during the break, but I also think it'll give me some time to process all of my ideas and kind of dig back through the old episodes for gems that I might have missed, because we all know that Jerry's been planting them all along, and they're just slowly all getting uncovered.
That was definitely one of the things we were talking about earlier in the week, about how it lends itself so well to re-listening, because the way Jerry tells the story, like his analogies are kind of like esoteric at times, and just like the story is so bananas in terms of like how all these different parts are interacting and just how many curveballs he throws. So like I find myself trying to just keep up with the plot of it, and then when I go back and listen to it, I'm catching offhand comments that were really funny or jokes that I wasn't fully getting off the first time through. It definitely recommends itself to multiple listens.
Oh, absolutely. If I had to pick my favorite thing for the last week, I would say that I really, really enjoyed watching and listening to the latest episode of... I feel like I say Dice Camera Action every week, but it's one of my favorite things to watch besides C-Team. And then, of course, the Grog one-shot was very good for Critical Role. So trying to pick between these things is like trying to pick between two children that I don't have. Both were incredible D&D experiences. Dice Camera Action was super engaging. They're doing Tomb of Annihilation still, so it was really cool to see some of that content brought to the big screen by one of the people who helped to make it, and to help get some, tone and ideas for the story. And then for Critical Role, it was just really fun to see Travis Willingham get up on stage and ham it up as DM. And not only that, but to create this layered sandwich where he's DMing a game of D&D, where he is DMing a game of D&D, but he's also DMing as a really stupid person who doesn't know all the rules of D&D. So it gives him an excuse to not know all the rules and to get shit wrong and to just make shit up on the fly that's completely contrary to the rules of the game, and he knows it, but he can just change things up on his players who are experienced players. So it was just completely bananas, and the players were playing their characters. So they got to exaggerate parts of their characters that they like, make these funny commentaries on their own selves, and there was this meta contextuality to it all that was mind-boggling.
My absolute favorite part of it is because he plays Grog stupidly with such brilliance, and Grog has never been able to understand ordination and numbers and math. They would roll really, really well because they're like 20th level characters. They get like 30 something, like 38 on a roll. And he'd be like, oh, yep, you fail. And that was it. Like, because he thought that was less, that like 2 would have been the bigger number there. So if he didn't want them to succeed on a given check because he thought it would be humorous or for whatever reason, he would play it off as his character DMing the game, not understanding which numbers are big.
Yeah, one time Percy tried to throw a spear and Grog said it was at disadvantage, and he's like, why am I at disadvantage? I have proficiency with these weapons. And he's like, I've never seen you throw a spear.
It's got a point.
Yeah. All right. So Haley, what have you watched this week that stuck with you?
So besides the C Team, I haven't had much time to watch any live D&D, but I would say that Xanathar's guide is just the gift that keeps on giving, because I know we talk about it all the time, but I can't wait for it, and I had short amounts of time to catch up on some D&D stuff, and I ended up watching a bunch of the short little clips that they've had interviews with people on the D&D Beyond YouTube channel, and I think that some of this, I get more excited with every new glimpse into it that I see.
Oh yeah, I am absolutely thrilled for that content. I just need those options available to me.
Also, Chris's delightful segment on the magic items table, that he came up with the cloak that all it does is billow. The cloak of billowing, it billows on command. It's just hilarious, and I cannot wait. I think those will be really fun things for people to start including in their campaigns.
Absolutely. I am so excited for Xanathar's. All right, guys. So sometimes on this podcast, we answer questions. And now is going to be one of those times. Dear Reddit, help me kill my PC's character. Basically, one of my players wants to kill off his character in the most elaborate way. He has given me full control to kill his character, but I'm stumped on how to do it. So I'm asking you, the denizens of the internet, to find the most crazy and satisfying player death that can be achieved. TLDR, PC wants to die. Me dum-dum. Can't think. You better?
Why does someone want to kill their character?
Why, Haley, why would you, that's some people have that wish. Why would you be so personally offended by that?
Because my character died without the help of the internet.
She didn't even need the internet to die.
No, but you see, Haley, since that fateful day, I have been losing sleep over what I can do. And the Mister and I have come upon an option here. And this actually would be a fun way to kill a character. Apparently, there are people that have been using and hiring citizens and village folk to essentially make a human railgun.
Oh, yeah.
Where you will stack them, line them up, and have them ready their action to pole vault and do large amounts of damage. So, town mutiny, maybe they didn't pay their bar tab. Maybe they didn't tip
I've got the step 1, step 2... The question marks I need some clarification on. So they lined up to pole vault.
Yeah.
How does this translate to massive damage?
Apparently it has to do with velocity. As each player will grab and throw it, it increases in velocity until it reaches a terminal velocity.
If I may, I apologize. I'm about to get all kinds of physics, Professor. It has to do with they all ready their action, so they all throw the pole at the same time. So it's instantaneous max velocity because they all do their ready to action at once. Hence,
it gets all kind of nasty.
Yeah, and so they throw a caber, like a tree trunk, at maximum velocity because it's 100 people all doing their action at the same time, and then they throw it at a dragon, essentially.
Oh.
This is like the D&D version of how many people does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Oh, God.
So, interesting ways to kill this guy's character. Come on, guys. We got a railgun performed by villagers. What else have we got? Air? I'm looking at you. When I need really over-the-top, silly ideas, I think, first, Jiraika, but she's not here. Then it's Air.
Congratulations, you're the second choice.
She's the queen of murder.
She is.
I'm just finding this out now.
Yeah. Listen, if you need a interesting way for your character to die, here's the serious response. Think of something interesting in his backstory, bring it into relevance, make the other characters care about it by making it personal to them. It's also helpful if you tie in the overarching theme of the game, or the overarching villain of the game, or the overarching central tension of your game into this moment, so that the character's death not only creates a dramatic moment for that player, but also creates a dramatic moment for the rest of the players and drives the arc of the story forward. If you want the fun answer, take that character, have a dragon swoop out of the sky, pick him up, fly him into the sky, let the character perform some sort of bullshit anime crap, kill the dragon midair, drive its skull down into the earth, leaving a crater, and the only thing left in the ground after his demise is this still standing sword, which is now glowing with a vengeful power. Just do something cool as hell. Just make it memorable. Your players are going to think in the middle of it like, this is too far. But by the end of it, they're going to be like, holy shit, that was fucking rad. How do I die?
Maybe you don't want to encourage that.
No, you must encourage the Lemmings syndrome. You must get rid of the fear of death. Death is not the enemy. Time is the enemy.
I think I would kind of just to piggyback off of that, like, do you have movies or anime or books that you've thought and that you have murdered? It's just,
Sure.
it's going downhill rapidly.
This is going to turn into a reenactment of a Saw movie real quick. Rube Goldberg device, grisly death, combine.
You can always find something that particularly stuck out in your campaign thus far and kind of revisit it.
Right. So what you're saying is, if I ever need to kill off one of your characters, the Remoraz will come back.
I'm just
Too
here temporarily.
soon. No, you're in for the long haul now.
Oh, damn it.
There's no
That's-
escape now.
Well,
You,
maybe my character will stick around. We'll see if yours does.
you're on the F list forever.
Uh,
That the F stands for
the
forever.
F stands for
Yeah.
forever.
The forever list. The friends list.
The real friends were the list we made along the way.
Yes.
Oh my god.
That's
Well, next question. Weekly question thread number 130 presents us this great question. That's on RD&D, a great place to receive wisdom and knowledge when we're not available. Your second best place to go for wisdom and knowledge about Dungeons and Dragons. Third place, I'm sorry, I forgot about sage advice for a moment, which is obviously the second best behind us.
that's why we idolize it so much.
What do I do if our paladin has become too powerful and forming an army so he can take over world? This is presented to us by Magical Goldine, which is a great username. What do we do if our paladin has become too powerful and is forming an army so he can take over the world? First of all, what god does this paladin worship that would allow for this?
Yeah, maybe it's time to re-examine
Yeah.
some character bonds and
I guess Oath of Conquest.
In the last question that we just answered.
Oh, right, yeah, we just gave you some great creative ways to kill him off.
So mutiny always comes to mind.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's the classic story, right? You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So, this paladin has just decided that the only way, the classic turn, the only way to ensure great justice is absolute control.
Honestly, if you're worried about him forming an army is only ever one usurper away from being the biggest threat he's ever faced. So if he finds that, you find that he's become too powerful, he's got too many followers, why don't you turn that against him? Why don't you have one of his lieutenants, his trusted lieutenant, suddenly get ideas of grandeur? Suddenly now his whole army is turned into a force of chaos and evil that he must banish back to the realms of hell.
Poison baked goods.
Always a good option. Assassination.
Yes.
Says the person who posts all the pictures of cookies.
Yeah. I typically don't like when my characters assassinate each other, and I certainly don't like when my DM assassinates his characters. But if your player has gotten completely out of control, a good way is just to use those things that are so successful for him against him, or let him form an army, but present him with an opposing army that is equal or greater. Make the story interesting narratively, if that can be fulfilling. But if that's not the kind of story you want to tell, then don't tell that story. Give him some mixed successes, make his army very busy, engage them with a foe so that the army is always off screen fighting this great battle. Give them periodic updates on how the army is doing, but don't let that be the focus of the campaign if you don't want it to be.
I will say I was just talking to someone today, actually, about the idea of like a Che Guevara character, about a character who is righteous and certain of their good intention, but the problem is not the system, the problem is just the people at the top. So having a paladin like make that turn could be a very interesting thing narratively to be like, because sometimes zealotry leads you down a path that moves you away from your God. You can literally be too passionate in your fervor for your Savior that you do something monstrous, something terrible. Because Guevara was very much about overthrowing the regime that controlled the country, but he was also not opposed to just killing people.
If your players are making a plot for themselves, such as conquering the world by building an army, it might just be that the campaign's a little directionless. Maybe he doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing, so this is how he's entertaining himself.
Yeah, maybe you create some sort of like a large enemy, something that's going to destroy the world, and instead of using the army to take over the world, he has to use the army to save the world. Something like that. I would say, remember that even though it's an interactive experience, you are still in the driver's seat, so your players shouldn't be steering the bus off the cliff.
Right. And you have all the tools in your imagination to steer that bus back onto a road. You can create a new road where one didn't exist before. Question thread 130 again. We go to Count Monte Cristo. Great book. Obviously, I have read it. Very big into all literatures. I do mini readings a day. Count Monte Cristo asks us, for those who have developed their own version, or just have ideas, how would I handle all 4 players being killed? I don't want to do permadeath, but I want some real consequences. Side note, I'm running a slightly modified version where there's no magic. I had to convince my friends somehow.
I'm a little puzzled.
I want to know how that's gonna work. That's half the fun of it.
I don't want to just play real world fighting.
Yeah, imagine a game where your whole party was either fighters, barbarians, rogues. That's it. That's the whole game.
Well, only certain rogues,
Yeah.
too.
None of those tricksty magic rogues.
Right? And what about racials? I mean, some classes just get them.
Not in this world. Magic's dead.
Also, the comment in there about I had to convince my friends somehow is a little confusing to me. Maybe this person has friends. I feel kind of bad. Like, do your friends not like magic? Maybe you should make them try playing with magic, because I think that is the best part of
Maybe
D&D.
they're all like really into Game of Thrones and they just wanted to play like Game of Thrones. So
well,
they had
in
to
that
play Game of-
case, you have to just stay dead forever.
Yeah, exactly. The suggestion that he offers is what I might do, thanks to some suggestions here, is if when they all die, I'll move them to another plane of existence where there will be wraiths, ghouls, etc. In order to return, they must go to their old bodies. And so depending on how they feel about the magic experience. Like, what is this party's deal with magic?
But is reincarnation not a form of magic?
I mean, yeah, everything about this is magical. I don't know what the problem with that is. I just don't get this question. Like, this is D&D. It's about fighting dragons. It's about going out on quests. I mean, I guess you can have a low magic campaign or a no magic campaign. That's fine, whatever. But then you have to accept the consequences of the low magic and no magic campaign, which is that death is always there. There's no healing. There's no spells that Sanctuary or Death Ward or any of these things that make death so much harder to come by. So obviously death is going to be a lot easier in a low magic or no magic campaign.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not just D&D, too. I think even growing up, you looked for the music, the magic in just about everything. So why take it from your D&D?
I can't wait to enter a world of fantasy and adventure. Here's a sword, go die.
Right? This is why I'm a cupcake, damn it.
Absolutely.
You identify as a shinobi confection?
I do.
That's okay.
Aw.
And we accept you.
I think what Cupcake is trying to say, and frankly, what we've all felt in our hearts, as I slowly stall, it's the magic in me. It's true. I've got the magic in me. Every time I touch that track, it turns into gold. Everybody knows I got the magic in me. When I hit the floor, the girls come snapping at me. Now everybody wants a blast of magic, 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 magic. And I think that we can all relate to that.
I would like to clarify, I did not set that up.
You just described my day every day.
Can I make one more comment about this?
Absolutely, please.
I think I think we've all made it pretty clear that we think you should have magic because there needs to be more magic in the world. But if you are going to have this world without magic, you need to either actively try not to have all of your characters die, and that might make things less exciting, but safer, or just throw them in there and see what happens, and maybe they'll be sad when they die and you can bring your friends back into a world with magic.
That would be kind of fun. It's a way to drastically change your
Yeah,
game.
it's
Sure.
true.
Yep.
Either introduce magic into your world or don't. Those are your two options, bud. Either you resurrect them and allow that some magic is going to creep into your no magic or low magic world, or don't resurrect them. Let them die. It's a no magic, low magic world. That's the way it goes. Which, hey, that's a different way to play, but it's certainly valid. All right, another great question. This time it is going to be from the Machinator. He would like to know, how would I roleplay a character with low intelligence but high wisdom? DM has had us roll stats. Got a 3, an 8, and the rest of the stats were pretty good. Dumped strength and intelligence. Dragonborn sorcerer, so +2 strength leaves me with a sorcerer with +2 whiz and a -1 intelligence modifier. Not sure how such a character would behave. Certainly he doesn't know a lot of stuff, especially complicated stuff. How would such a character rely more on instinct?
I am particularly jazzed about this question because this character sounds like so much fun to play.
Absolutely. Give us an example. What do you got?
I mean, I'm just going to say maybe I'm the only one who's encountered those people in their lives where they think they know everything, but they might not. And they just kind of stumble into it. It's the kind of person that puts salt in their coffee instead of sugar because, by golly, they know what they're doing. That's how I would play that.
See, that's funny because I got a totally different read on it than that, but that's interesting. That's a different vibe than what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the the simple wisdom kind of, like the country folk who has the simple wisdom, the simple wisdom, the simplest wisdom.
How simple is the wisdom, Jay?
It's that anti-Griffith type of character, right? Who's just a simple, plain old country boy. I don't know much about much, but what I do know is what's right and wrong. And Opie, what you did was wrong. So you need to go back there and apologize to them kind folk. They rely on their old folksy wisdom, that hospitality, but they don't really have much in the way of book learning. Nope, that ain't for me.
I will say that, that's absolutely the I think the key difference between wisdom and intelligence, because I remember when I first started playing thinking that they didn't, aren't these the same thing? And then when you look at kind of the skills they key off on, it's really, the difference between book smarts and street smarts. So someone that is good with people, at least in reading people, someone that is really naturally keen in a given domain. Like, they might not be able to tell a sycamore from a red larch, but they would be able to tell you, oh, that's the tree with the wood that makes wood that burns all night. They're used to working out in the woods. I'm trying to make examples from nature, and I'm a dyed-in-the-wool city boy, so it's not working.
Your dump stat is definitely wisdom, huh? You're an intelligence build.
I have dumped almost all of them, save for con.
No, you've definitely got charisma through the roof. Yeah, though, I think that's fairly accurate. I think a wisdom character is just somebody who has a lot of knowledge passed down or otherwise. Somebody who has a lot of knowledge about common sense things, a lot of knowledge about people, about how to interact with others, social knowledge, if not, textbook learning. This is a person who is able to read a room and get a bead on somebody without even talking to them, but isn't necessarily the kind of person who's going to then go ahead and formulate some sort of formula or go program your computer. This is the person who's really good at therapy, but not so great at medicine,
Isn't therapy the ultimate medicine, Jay?
That's true. But yeah, what do you think, Aileen?
So I've actually been, like, sometimes I do definitely struggle with what the difference between those two stats are, but what this whole discussion has made me think is that it would be really fun to play, and it's not the answer to this question, but I think it'd be really fun to play the really book smart character who doesn't know anything about the world. So like the opposite, if you swapped those.
Oh
stats
yeah,
around.
yeah, the classic film cliche of the naive but intelligent academic who goes out into the world and doesn't know how to interact with humans. I
Yeah.
believe the title of that adventure is called Big Bang Theory.
Oh, that would be a
Oh, no.
fabulous character.
Just play some Sheldons.
Yeah,
A whole
exactly.
Party full of Sheldons.
A whole party of Sheldons. Hello, welcome to my nightmare.
Oh,
Yeah,
this
I
is a
was-
one shot that needs to happen.
I stopped speaking because I was shuddering.
Hang on, I'm quickly deleting this entire podcast now. Hang on.
If I may, I just want to be like, hello, lovely nerd friends. You're super smart in various specific domains, but maybe don't have the greatest social graces. Come play in a world of fantasy. Your characters will be people who have a lot of book smarts, but no social graces. You're perfect for it.
The whole campaign is people trying to figure out what to do with each other.
Yeah. To be fair, I've heard of a lot of people who have been using D&D as a means of helping to inculcate social skills in those who might have some difficulty reading social signals or understanding body language.
I don't think any of us can relate to that, Eric. I don't think any of us here can relate to that. I think that that's a foreign concept for all of us.
Yeah, I do think that would be a little too close to home. Let's all play a D&D game that's exactly like your everyday life.
Yeah, I think a party of Sheldons is my version of hell.
I roll for suburban angst. Natural 20.
Jeez.
Guys are at 10th level. You get to do the midlife crisis arc now.
No, it just keeps going.
So Gabriel Garcia submitted to us our very first user-submitted question. Yes, you can have your questions answered here by these wonderful experts by tweeting at InsightCheckPod or using the hashtag InsightCheck. Make sure that you send your questions in whenever we actually start releasing these podcasts. So then, the question is, a lawful good tiefling paladin possible?
Yes, it is the realm of fantasy. Anything is possible with a good backstory.
It's true.
I think a tiefling paladin's great. Like, that's, you're looking for that redemption angle. You're looking for that, I am going to work against my worser nature to serve, something holy. Or they could be an evil paladin. Who knows?
Yeah, and the stat synergy is good too, because that bonus to charisma.
That Chado.
And I think Dex is the other one that they
It's
get.
Cha and Int for the stock
Well,
tiefling.
yeah. Intelligence is not a great stat for a paladin, but it just means that when you're using point buy, you don't have to put as many points into int.
I was just making a tiefling right before we started.
Oh, tell us about your tiefling.
So now that we know that death lurks around every corner and at any minute we could be snapped up and eaten, I started thinking, well, maybe I'll just level up a 6th level wizard. I went and bought myself the feral tiefling out of the Sword Coast Adventure Guide because they get Dex and Int as their stats, and they get wings and they can fly, which is kind of cool. And then I was just putting him together, trying to think of a backstory that would make sense to insert him into the party, and then I was working on the voice, which
You're
oh, it's all about the voice. I was working on like vaguely Eastern European with something of a guttural growl, like Vionia, I'm not interested in anything you have to say to me, like that kind of Draught or vampire deal thing. So yeah, you might have to suffer that voice sometime in the future when Jay finally kills us.
Yeah, don't kill rhymes. I'm glad you were cutting your teeth on that.
A little rough.
Yeah. Well, and it's good to know because I too, after this past weekend, decided, oh, well, I just rolled this, but maybe I need another one, and decided to make a wizard, so that's out the window.
Listen, everyone can be Gandalf.
I cannot have your wand being bigger than mine.
Oh no.
Listen, it's not about the size of the wand, it's what you cast with it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. You can be a lawful good tiefling paladin. I think that your race does not discern your alignment, and I think that your tieflingness does not preclude you from being a paladin. I think that D&D is designed in such a way to actually encourage these kinds of things. Tiefling also in the lore is merely someone whose family has some ties to demonic influence, which means that your aunt or uncle or great-great-grandfather could have been in an evil pact with the devil, and it doesn't have anything to do with you. So you have inherited this tiefling nature because your bloodline is cursed, but you yourself did not necessarily want to be evil. Maybe you have evil tendencies now, evil urges, but you fight those back, forcing yourself on the holy path. And that's part of what makes your story interesting. That's part of what makes you a compelling character, is the fact that you're playing against type.
For sure. And maybe that's the whole reason you are a paladin. I mean, you're fighting these urges. We got to look at class versus where you wind up. It's what D&D does. You've got Dritz, who is obviously a pretty stand-up fella, even for a drow.
Dritz Stewart, pretty stand-up fella. I love that.
Class president.
Those are the characters that people latch onto and they really love. I mean, there's an entire large quantities of books about all of those adventures, and so I think that's can be more interesting in some ways than playing what would come naturally, playing that as a kind of evil sort of pact, just doing the expected thing. Sometimes it's better to go totally against the grain and make something more interesting out of it.
Jay?
Yes?
Say the thing where you tell us we did good.
You did good. I like it.
Just decimate that like button.
Desecrate that like button.
Feed that horse.
Destroy it.
You did this.
Make its children feel the pain.
Wow, that's dark.
They will have to become paladins to redeem themselves.
I need you to wind that way back, yeah.
Just like daylight savings time, it's getting darker every second.
What? Why?
Don't remind us of the darkness.
Them solstice jokes, though.
I think for our last question today, I'd like to tackle a very important and serious issue. At this time of year, there's no greater question than how do we make people think about Christmas? They keep forgetting it. It keeps just slipping by unnoticed. Everybody just keeps living their life and nobody stops to think, how can I put more Christmas in the lives of my friends and family? Thankfully, we've got a person here looking forward to the holidays with an eagle eye who hasn't let Christmas escape his notice. He's decided to launch a war on making sure we enjoy Christmas. And as such, we've decided to answer this question, which is, what kind of stuff would you put in a Christmas-themed one-shot? Guys, how can we inject a little bit of Christmas cheer into that Dungeons & Dragons experience?
You could do some pretty interesting elf-themed adventures, and not the D&D elves, like Santa's Helper's elves, but make them have to make interesting toys that maybe they're in a village and they have to figure out what things people would like or what would be useful to them, and then make them sneak into people's houses because that's creepy, and deliver the presents without getting caught. I think that would be fun.
I mean, if you're looking for winter wonderland creatures, like creatures that primarily show up in tundra, you've got everything from your mundane polar bears, winter wolves, to more exotic things like mammoths and whatnot, frost giants, even everyone's favorite, glacial monstrous bug, the remoras. Which I know Haley loves.
Nope. None of that in my Christmas cheer. It will get nothing. Not even coal.
Now I have to unstuff your stocking.
Let's be clear here. Christmas-themed one-shot. So this is a self-contained story, a little isolated adventure where you want to have a clear objective that is achievable within a reasonable time frame. As such, I think the most basic choice that you can have is to deliver a satisfying narrative through delivering goods, presents, and things like that. But I challenge you to resist that notion and have an outside-the-box thinking session to get to the heart of Christmas. Now, our great and powerful and much-beloved DM Daddy, may his spirit be with us now in this hour, has come up with the adventure, The Missing Child. Is that what it's called?
Changeling Baby.
Changeling Baby.
Changeling Baby, which is a Christmas adventure that gets to the spirit of Christmas, gets to the aspects of family, of uniting people, of goodness for the sake of goodness, without even relying on any of the classic Christmas tropes. This was an adventure that was originally rolled out in Christmas and is now being played again in Christmas, and I don't think that's an accident. I think that Jerry Holkins knows that this is a uniquely Christmas adventure. And it's because it gets straight to that warm, chewy center of the Christmas sentimentality that we all cling to and delude ourselves into believing actually exists, which is that the holidays bring us together. And in this sense, the adventure is designed where you receive this changeling baby, werewolves are after it, you, out of no real motivation, there's no quest hook here, there's no quest giver, you are simply motivated by your real, actual human heart to protect this baby and to get it somewhere safe. And then through the hooks of the adventure, you find ways where it needs to go, what place can accept it and protect it from the werewolves, why it's being chased, etc., etc. And you eventually get it there, and then you leave it behind, and there's that heartbreaking moment where you are suddenly parted from this small creature that you've been protecting, and where you get to see it now going on to the rest of its life, knowing that you have changed its fate. And that is a uniquely Christmas adventure. I think that is tremendously successful as a Christmas narrative without ever touching on any of the themes that we most commonly associate with Christmas. So what you need to ask yourself is, what is Christmas about? Make an adventure that's about bringing your party together and making them feel the warmth that a family, one that you've chosen to be with and to make time for, is the most important thing. And that is the meat of the Christmas one-shot. You need to get that emotion across in 3 hours. Good luck.
I absolutely did not realize that the Changeling Baby had all of these like Christmas biblical allusions. There's an infant in a busy inn. It's winter. I mean, yeah.
It was originally played around Christmas time several years ago with Mike Krahulik and his wife, and apparently left them in tears, according to what they said.
That's all I knew about it previously, but not like the actual.
Yeah, they made a few comics about it, and they also talked a little bit about it at a convention once. And it has been my obsession to kind of recreate this adventure through knowledge I've gleaned from others, and I have actually run the Changeling Baby once, just purely based on the stories I've heard and then my own kind of engineering it however I can. So I will be thrilled to actually watch the real thing played out by its creator and to kind of know what hooks and beats he taps on most. But yeah, it's a great story. It's just a great narrative. So I guess the advice for this one is go watch the C-Team Christmas special.
Cupcake, how would you bring Yuletide feels?
Oh my God. I, as many of you know, am also a big sucker for really bad jokes and puns. I'm going to
I had not
reference back.
noticed.
Oh,
Yes, please.
oh goodness. I'm a big fan of the very, very talented Spun Yarns and Dragons on Twitter, and a while back she had put together a list of festive D&D ideas that I strongly recommend that you go and find her Twitter. On her list, she had Mimic Gift, which, oh my God, how much fun could that be? Carol of the Grells, Christmas Tree Ant, Jingle Bee Ho Ho Holder. She just went through it. It's a list, and I just giggled the whole time. But the moral of the story is there's a lot of possibilities, and you can be as wholesome or as horrible as you want to be.
So yes, if you want to see the joy that is Spun Yarns and Dragons, who is also a part of the ever active Shadow Council, the C-Team fandom, you can find them at Mazzmatazz, Mazzamtazz. Yes, I said Z. I apologize. I'm a Canadian.
I was going to say, or Z's for those of you who live in the United States.
I realized as I was doing it that,
Freaking
oh shit, my
Canadian.
Canadian's showing. I know. I'm so sorry. Which is also Canadian. We invented that. Apologies. Anyway, but at Mazzmatazz, they are great people.
Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week's Insight Check. Haley, why don't you take us out?
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Insight Check. We had some quick thank yous for some wonderful people. Thank you to Vinswept for the wonderful instrumental opening version of Never Stand Alone. And also to Amy T. Falcone for our beautiful logo designs. And please feel free to tweet at us any questions that you might have at InsightCheckPod or hashtag InsightCheck, and we will do our best to answer your questions in a useful and entertaining way.
Answering your cues from our collective A's.
This
Was
Insight.
Check. We aren't cool. I mean, we're cold.
You are. It's cold there.
Oh, great minds. Got there. We got there. Self 5.